Israel hammered the headquarters of the Hamas-run government in Gaza and rockets soared from Gaza toward Israel, including one that was blocked by a missile defense system as it headed straight to Tel Aviv. Air raid sirens screamed in Tel Aviv, and Hamas military wing claimed responsibility for shelling the city. But the Israel Defense Forces said its Iron Dome missile defense system blocked a Tel Aviv-bound rocket. Earlier, Israeli warplanes leveled the Palestinian cabinet building, where on Friday Egyptian Prime Minister Hisham Kandil met with Hamas officials. The strikes hit the office of Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas Ministry of the Interior, and a police compound, Israel and Hamas said. The conflict took a grim turn Friday after when rockets fell on Jerusalem, Israel's seat of power. As Palestinian fighters and Israeli soldiers traded fire, Israeli troops and tanks massed near the border of the besieged Palestinian territory Saturday, raising the specter of an imminent ground invasion. Convoys carrying tens of thousands of Israeli soldiers rolled toward the Gaza border Saturday, part of what the IDF described as 30,000 troops that were being mobilized along the Israeli-Gaza border. The Israeli government has authorized the call of 75,000 reservists, the latest move in Israel's days-old military campaign to stop daily rocket attacks from Gaza. We are in the process of expanding the campaign, Brig. General Yoav Mordecai, an Israel Defense Forces spokesman, told Israel's Channel 2. Leaders across the world have called on Israeli and Palestinian governing bodies to show restraint, fearing, at a minimum, a possible repeat of Israel's 2008 invasion that left at least 1,400 people dead. Mousi Abu Marzouk said he and other Hamas leaders were in Cairo, meeting with Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi and the country's intelligence officials to find a solution to the crisis. Arab League foreign ministers were to huddle in the Egyptian capital. 9 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza on Saturday, raising to 40 the number killed since Israel's military operation, dubbed Pillar of Defense, began Wednesday, according to Palestinian government and health officials. More than 385 in Gaza have been wounded since Wednesday, according to the Palestinian Interior Ministry. Israel is reporting 3 deaths from a Hamas rocket attack in the southern community of Kiryat Malachite. There have been at least 18 Israeli injuries, including 5 civilians and 4 Israeli soldiers wounded by rocket fire from Gaza, the military said. More than 400 rockets have hit Israeli territory since Wednesday, the IDF said. 4 days, Israel has been using airstrikes to target what it describes as rocket launching sites operated by Hamas and other militant groups. Israel airstrikes have hit more than 830 targets in Gaza since the operation began, the IDF said. The constant of drones could be heard at the border, where a CNN television crew observed an Israeli forward reconnaissance patrol set up behind the tree line to avoid incoming rockets from Gaza. The Israel Defense Forces, which describes Hamas-run Gaza as a frontline base for its adversary Iran, said it targeted a Hamas base in southern Gaza and 2 Hamas operatives on Saturday, one in charge of smuggling and an air defense official. Overnight, the IDF targeted a terror activity site in the central Gaza Strip, deliberately located and hidden inside a mosque, in the vicinity of a school, the IDF said, accusing Hamas of using the Palestinian civilian population as a human shield. It was unclear from the statement whether the mosque was targeted in the airstrike. The IDF did not immediately respond to a CNN request for comment, and Palestinian officials did not identify the destruction of a mosque in its latest list of buildings and facilities damaged and destroyed in the Israeli airstrikes. Palestinian militants, meanwhile, launched a barrage of rockets at southern Israel, including 4 that hit the coastal community of Ashdod, the IDF said. One of the rockets hit a house and another landed near a kindergarten, the IDF said. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The Izzatin al-Qassam Brigade said its fighters shelled Zikim military base near Ashkelon and the Israeli cities of Ashdod and Beersheba. Among the airstrikes on Saturday, Hamas accused Israeli warplanes of hitting an apartment building in the northern Gaza community of Jabalia Camp, killing at least 3 people and wounding more than 30, according to Hamas-run Al-Aqsa TV. Footage broadcast by Al-Aqsa showed people clambering over smoking ruins, searching for survivors. From northern Gaza, Mohammed Suleiman said he could hear bombs intermittently falling from Israeli warplanes as well as rockets periodically whistling toward Israel. The situation is totally dangerous here, and it is not safe to be out in the street, Suleiman said. The IDF said around 400 rockets launched from Gaza had hit Israel since midweek, while 230 of those were intercepted by its missile defense system. Among the rockets fired Friday were 2 that targeted Jerusalem, setting off air raid sirens. The rockets struck an open area south of the city, with Hamas claiming responsibility for firing the rockets toward Jerusalem. Sirens sounded, too, in Tel Aviv, prompting people to scramble for cover, witnesses said. No damage was reported, but Israelis considered the attacks on its major population centers to be an escalation, said Israel's ambassador to the United States, Michael Doran. Israeli authorities said the military campaign has hit more than 600 targets for what it calls terror activity and stifled rocket launches out of Gaza, a claim denied by Hamas military wing. Photos, deadly attacks in Gaza, Israel so far. Israeli tank units and troops have stayed outside Gaza. But a senior U.S. administration official familiar with U.S. Israeli talks in recent days said the United States unequivocally supports Israel's right to self-defense. But the U.S. message is for Israel not to invade Gaza. Escalation is what we are concerned about. We don't want it to escalate to the point where Israel feels it has to take additional action, specifically ground force action, the official said. Chief among U.S. and European concerns is Egypt's possible reaction to an Israeli ground invasion. What action would Egypt take? Would they move into the Sinai? The official said. A large part of the concern is over the fate of the Camp David Accords, the 1979 peace treaty between Egypt and Israel that is considered critical to the region's stability. Egypt has strengthened its relations with Hamas following the overthrow of President Hosni Mubarak, and Morsi sent his prime minister to meet with Hamas officials in Gaza on Friday. Egypt's cabinet chief, Mohammed Rifaa al-Tawtori, said Friday the peace treaty was safe. But respecting a peace treaty does not mean to stay idle or indifferent to what is going on along our borders, he said. While the United States, Britain and Germany have said Hamas bears the brunt of the blame for the current crisis, Morsi put it squarely on Israel. Egypt will not leave Gaza alone, and what is happening there is a blatant aggression against humanity. Israeli, how would you feel if your children were constantly scared? Tunisia, meanwhile, is the latest country to lend its voice to a growing chorus of predominantly Arab-led denouncements of Israel's airstrikes, with Tunisia sending a delegation Saturday to Gaza to reiterate its unconditional solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Tunisian delegation, led by Foreign Minister Rafik Abdeslam, got a first-hand look at the destroyed Palestinian cabinet headquarters and visited the main hospital in Gaza City, according to Al Aqsa TV. Palestinians incensed over Israel's offensive took to the streets in the West Bank, the Palestinian territory, whose government is dominated by the Fatah movement. 4 people were seriously injured in Beit Yan near Ramallah when Israeli soldiers fired high-velocity projectiles toward demonstrators, Palestinian medical sources said. 7 others were lightly injured by rubber steel-coated bullets and tear gas inhalation, the sources said. In the West Bank village of Beit Omer, roughly 100 of the demonstrators attempted to march out of the village but were stopped by Israeli soldiers, who fired stun grenades and tear gas. When we see pictures coming out of Gaza, we feel their pain. Their pain is our pain, said a protester, who identified himself only as Mohammed. Fatah and Hamas have been fierce rivals in recent years. Fatah is more moderate on Israel than Hamas, and its leaders have engaged in peace talks with Israel over the years. Watch. Senior Hamas members on strikes in Gaza in Ashkelon, about 17 kilometers 10 miles north of Gaza. Local officials said on Friday that rocket strikes had increased dramatically in recent days. Such attacks are nothing new for residents accustomed to hunkering down in bunker rooms, but the emptiness of the town's marina and streets suggested the uptick had left people on edge. It is really frightening, Shiraz Wieselhoff said. I cannot sleep at night. Air raid sirens went off in the city on Saturday, Israeli radio reported. Will Twitter war become the new norm?